What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Family, what's going on? Hey, come on in here, family. Come on in here tonight. Thanks for chilling with Teddy Ray on the Block 105 FM as well as SoCal Radio, as well as YouTube as well. What's going on here, family? Hey, family, I missed you guys, man. I missed you guys tremendously, man. But I got a good one tonight. Man. I feel like I'm interviewing myself tonight, man. This brother here is very powerful. I love his journey. I love what he's doing. It reminds me, it's like I'm looking in the mirror, man, to be perfectly honest with you, man. But I want to give a shout out to all the birthdays for the month of April. Happy birthday to you guys, man. Just in case I missed you guys, I want to say happy birthday for the month of April. All the birthdays in the month of April. Happy birthday to you guys here. I pray that you guys have a healthy, wealthy birthday this year. And I pray that God gives you the desires of your heart. But I got a good one tonight here. I really got a good one tonight here. Spoke to this gentleman off the air, man, and I felt like I was interviewing myself, man. I felt like I was talking to myself, and tonight it's going to feel like I'm interviewing myself here. But I do have a real good one tonight here. Shout out, you know what, I was watching this speaking engagement that my First Lady Siobhan Cotio had today here. And I, even though it's for the women, I see you're on here, guest. Even though it's for the women, she said something that was very impactful, man, and I didn't want the family members to miss out on it. She said, stop worrying prayers. If you're going to worry, don't pray. If you're going to pray, don't worry. So I want to leave that with you guys here. Stop those worrying prayers. Pray and leave it up to God. I got a good one tonight here, family. I see my guest here on, so let me go and get the guest here. 1 second here, family. One second here, family. Are you on, sir?
Hey, what's going on? How you feeling, man?
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, family? How you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on your show today. I really appreciate it.
Man, let me first of all, I built this platform to give people their flowers, man, and let them know that they inspire me in so many ways. Tonight is very special to me, man, because I feel like I'm interviewing myself with your journey and whatnot. But family, my guest tonight is from Willingboro, New Jersey, by way of Philadelphia. He is a father, husband, a man of God. He is an artist and host of the Elements of Inspiration Radio Network, which is committed to playing positive music, powerful messages, purposeful living, inspiring hearts, transforming lives, and building legacies. To him, the network is more than just a station. It's a movement. Known to the world as Brother Marcus and Philly's favorite family, I introduce to you tonight, Mr. Marcus C. Smith. How you doing tonight, family?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just taking it easy. Another busy day doing what we do, you know.
Man, first of all, man, when I surf the website and I surf the internet, I don't surf for nonsense. I surf for the same thing that you surf for, is inspiring, uplifting one another, and encouraging one another, and let them know that they are worthy. They are worthy to be here. They are relevant. So let's go on. And what gravitated me to you, sir, is let's talk about July 13th, 1979, sir, where it all started from. Let's go ahead and start there for you, sir.
Wow, you must have been doing your research, huh? You went straight for it. Well, that was a Friday the 13th, 1979 in July. It was on that's when I had a close encounter with the Lord by way of Miss Newman, who lived in Willingboro, New Jersey, Pennypacker Park, and we lived adjacent to her. And so that's really like how I came to the Lord. She broke everything down to me as I was a child, obviously. And I accepted the Lord, and ever since then, I've always had, a relationship with God. I'm not saying that I was perfect all of these years, but my foundation was made early.
Now, you know what? No, I'm glad you said that about we're not perfect, man, because everybody feels when you hear the word believers that we have to be perfect. We're put on this pedestal, but we're on the same we're on the same mission that everyone else is on.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I also had another impactful date that I wanted you to talk about. It just actually happened recently, man, and I'm so proud of this accomplishment, man, because to be perfectly honest with you, it actually has put a fire in me, man, with this podcast and radio station that I have as well here. Let's talk about the April 10th launch date.
Oh, absolutely. Well, April 10th, about 11 years ago, my mother had, transitioned. She walked off to be with the Lord. And so, for years, it's always been a tough day, April 10th.
Yeah.
And I remember when she passed away, it was April 10th at 10:10 a.m. in the morning. And so when I decided to launch my radio network, I decided to do it on April 10th at 10:10 a.m.
Mm.
Because it was just symbolic. And I'm 55 years old. And so if you 5 and 5, you add that together, what you got? 10.
Yeah. Yes,
So,
sir.
from a numerical standpoint, it might not make sense to many people, but to me, it was just special that I would launch it on that particular day. And so that's why I did it. So it's the day now, instead of it being bitter, it could be bittersweet.
Come on, man. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. You actually helping someone out tonight here. Purposeful healing is what that looks like. It's purposeful healing, where it allows you to heal, man. Um, I, I too lost my mom, and my condolences to you, man. I too lost my mom. I'm a single child. Lost my mom in 2018,
Oh,
and
wow. Sorry to hear that.
yeah, I appreciate that. And to be perfectly honest with you, my father is still living, but when I lost my mom, man, I feel like I lost both my parents. If that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes
So,
mothers will play the role of both parents if there's only one parent raising you. So there's like a shift in the atmosphere. So I get it, man.
I too have my moments. I have my days, man, where I'm not too afraid or too embarrassed to say that I am a mother's boy.
It's
you
all
know,
right.
to be perfectly honest with you here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I told you I did I do my research on my guest, man, and I have a question for you. Was being a substitute teacher a seed planted for Brother Marcus to grow?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a very interesting question. I believe that it has. That when I was coming into the classrooms, as just a sub, I was working for an organization that would just kind of hire you for the day. But when I would step into different districts, they would always want to lock me in for the year. So because I had a good rapport with the students, and a lot of the students used to say to me, are you a pastor or something like that? And I would say to them, what would make you think anything like that? Not that I was ashamed, I was just curious, but they were just like, my demeanor was different. I was very approachable, and I kind of just had a different approach with the student body. So I just used uh, that way of getting in to just being who I am and showing the love of God without bragging or talking about it, because the Bible says they will know you by your fruit. And so I just kind of always been there to inspire them. A lot of the students that I know have gone on to be successful and done a lot of great things, and I see them over the years that because of my inspiration, this is what they tell me, that they were inspired to do, to take a trade or go to college or get into making movies and all this other stuff. So you kind of look back at it and you say, I'm glad, well, somebody was able to pick up the element of inspiration, vibe.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I had a question for you here. I get excited about when I have male guests on the line here. I tend to ask this question, and being that you know, had the opportunity to work with youth or whatnot, as well as myself. There's no right or wrong answer to this. I just wanted to get your perspective on this. I love to get male guests' perspective on this. But if you had to, what percentage would you give fathers the blame for the way that the youth are currently?
Oh wow. I mean, that's a good question. I really can't say a percentage. I would just say that for all of us, parents, period, everybody has their role to play. Um, Sometimes some parents think, well, I pay money to take care of the kids, and so I did my part. Other parents, they're there and they're present, but they don't have any money. So it's a lot of different dynamics, and I really can't pinpoint. I could just say, we all have to do better, me included. You know what I mean? We all
Yeah,
got to do better. And that only comes through prayer and just trying our very best to be present in the lives of our young people. I do believe that male figures need to be present, whether it's the biological father or the stepfather or a family friend. And I'm saying that in terms of trustworthiness, not anybody you can have around your kids.
yeah,
That's a whole different topic, for a whole nother day. But I do believe that there's got to be, some good influences in the house or in the community where kids could grow and know that they're valued. I was sharing with somebody the other day about how my father wasn't there for me, and again, no shots fired at him,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I wanted him to help me out with something, and I was 17, and I had all these great opportunities, and all I needed was just a little bit of help and a little bit of financial backing, and he wasn't able to do that. And but it didn't at the time, of course, it was hurtful, but the role of a father, you would want them to see, to pour into your dreams. You know what I mean? But when that didn't happen, there was a reason for everything. And as you get older, you get wiser, you realize that. But yeah, our
Yeah.
young people, they do need some good people that they can look up to, not just athletes or movie stars or celebrities, but people in their own neighborhood that can help them. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes a whole lot of sense here because, like I said before you came on, man, I feel like tonight I'm interviewing myself, man. To be perfectly honest with you, we have a lot of similarities with our journey, man. I too um, had a father that was in the house but wasn't in the house, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My dad, my dad, well, I'll say my mom, she was the breadwinner and whatnot, and the responsibilities was flipped. My
Mm-hmm.
dad, I guess you could say the house attendant, make sure that I was provided food. But once he did all that, he pretty much left out the house. I played sports throughout my whole adolescence, and my father has not attended one game or anything. He actually heard about, how good I was in sports from friends at the weight room. And he happened to say, "Oh, that's my son." But he has never been a part of I can't even remember not one time when my dad was in the stands, to be perfectly honest with you. And the
Mm-hmm.
crazy part about the whole situation is that my mom put me in sports just so I can be away from the streets. But
Yeah.
also I thought that, being that my dad was, playing the role of, being at the house and being make sure that I have food and everything like that, he would have time enough to come support me. But I never had any support, and I always, still to this day, frown upon him about that because, you know, I personally feel things could have changed in my life, as far as sports, had I had someone support me. I know you heard of this thing called the SAT. Man, I would just go in there and just scribble scrabble on the SAT because I had no guidance on what the SAT was about. So I didn't care. I
Mm-hmm.
had 2 scholarships waiting for me, but because I didn't have nobody pushing me, I just would go in there and just scribble scrabble on the SAT and just leave.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't have no guidance on that. But because I have kids now, I vowed to, pour into them what I didn't receive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but talk about since we're on that here, and I told you I do my research, sir. So I'm going to catch you off guard with a lot of things here. Um, talk about when you was in a dark place in your life, and a simple text that you sent out to heal you, healed others.
Oh wow. Well, let me put everything in perspective. I remember I had lost everything, and to keep it 100, which I was married before. Me and the wife at the time, we had gotten divorced. We had 5 daughters, and so I really went into like a dark place. I lost, everything. I had cars, and I had a house, and just I lost everything. So but I never lost my faith. I lost a lot of material possessions and people, and so I saw things spiraling, for me, and I had to remember who I was. Remember, I was saved back in 1979. You know what I mean? And I had a relationship with the Lord, and I lost everything by the time I was like 32, 33, somewhere around there.
Mm.
And so one day I just kind of said, you know what? I need to encourage myself and remember, who I am and whose I am. And
Yeah.
I got myself a
Yeah.
little, I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, yeah, whose you are. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Um, one day I just kind of I pull out like got a Metro PC phone, and I started putting inspirational quotes in there, and I was doing that for me, not for anybody else in particular.
Yeah.
But then I got this feeling to send it out to like 10 people that were in my phone. So I just sent it out, and I did it for like about a week. And then one day I did not send it out, and I remember there was a gentleman who lives in Willingboro. He goes by the name of Will, and he texted me later in the afternoon. He said, "Hey man, I really, need, that message. What happened today?" And I said, "Give me a moment." And so I curated a message, and I sent it out to, all of the 10 people on the phone. Lo and behold, there was a radio DJ who was on my list as well. And sometimes, people don't be paying attention to stuff or whatever. But this particular day, the radio DJ, got the message, and he texted me back and said, "I'm going to call you." And I was like, "Yeah." So we started talking. He said, "I want you to do this on my radio show." And I'm like, this dude is clowning me, because this particular radio personality was known for, playing a lot of, games and stuff like that. And that was just his personality. And he was serious. He was like, "I'm going to call you at, at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock for my show." And that's what changed everything. So when he called me, he was like, "So, what do you?" He said, "What do you call these messages?" And at that time, I didn't know. I didn't have any plans for it. I just said the elements of inspiration. I just threw it out there, and he just called me the Good Brother Marcus. That was my original name, the Good Brother Marcus, with the elements of inspiration. And he said, "Go ahead and do your thing." And he gave me like 30 seconds on his show to just do a quick quote. And that's where it all started. And where let me put it this way, that's where re got started, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And from that point, that's when everything changed. Everything changed, you know.
Man, I love the fact that in the midst of you said something that was very powerful, and I too have encountered that as well. I've had a situation where I was in a dark space, man, but I kept serving, man. I kept serving. I kept
Oh,
serving
absolutely.
with knowing who I belonged to, and that's what kept me to where I am today. To be perfectly honest with you, is because of my prayer life. And how important is your personal prayer life, sir?
Oh man, it's extremely important. I usually say, well, not usually say, I do say, having a prayer life is like the vitamins and minerals. Like you take vitamins every day, you got to have prayer if you want to be healthy spiritually. And not to get all in, to share my business, but I think that this is for people that really need to be inspired. I spend a lot of time in prayer.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
talking to one of the pastors of my church. He, just called me today. We were just talking, and we always talk about prayer and all this kind of stuff. I say I got up extremely early, and as soon as I woke up, I can sleep for like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm good. But last night I woke up, and I was, I prayed for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I, do my Bible study, and I'm up, and I'm a live wire, and I'm connecting with God. And so to me, that's everything. And then of course I pray throughout the day as I'm led to do so. But to have that prayer life, that relationship with God, it's a relationship, not a situationship. You got to pray, but you also got to be quiet and listen for what the Lord is saying. And those things I personally believe are spiritually beneficial. So prayer life is everything. And then there are certain seasons and times when you have to fast from everything, not just people, places, and food, but there's times that you got to do that so we can spiritually center ourselves so that we can just be in a place where God can really utilize us. So there's levels to this walk with God, and
Absolutely.
it's not always about asking for stuff. It's building that relationship, and yeah. So it's my prayer life is very important. You know.
Hey, you were saying something that I wanted to ask you here. How important? Because I did my research and I noticed that you was an artist. You're an artist as well here. How
Mhm.
important to recognize what season God has you in?
It's very important, and I think. Well, and when I say, I'm a recording artist, but I don't. That's not the end all be all like that. I don't put a lot of stock into that. I make records because I can. I have a record label because I can. Now, this goes back to when I was telling you earlier, my father didn't support me, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't want to say he didn't support me. Maybe he couldn't afford it, whatever the case was. I'm not going to, make him look crazy. God rest his soul. But there are things in life that happen for a reason. And so because he didn't do that for me, it kept me out of a lot of different situations and circumstances. There were people that I connected with earlier on who will forever remain nameless and but have gone on to superstardom and super success. And I happened to meet certain folks in the very beginning. Imagine if I would have gotten what I needed from my dad and I was connected to these people because me running into these folks was inevitable anyway. But because I didn't have everything the way that I wanted it, it
Yeah,
saved me from a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's why I backtrack and say sometimes when you don't get what you feel you want or feel you need, sometimes the mistakes that our fathers make are really future situations that are saving us. You know.
yeah.
Now I got to answer your question. I wanted to give you the backdrop, but I forgot the
Go
last
ahead.
question you were asking me.
No, I was just saying that, like I used to beat my father up as well, man, as far as like, not being there for me. But then I had to ask myself, maybe he just didn't know how to be a father.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that, like when you have kids, there's no blueprint, there's no manual, there's no nothing. And sometimes, depending on where you grew up from, your parents can be products of their environment where maybe their fathers weren't there, or they come from a dysfunctional situation. But I mean, like for me, like I always tell folks, let it go. You're alive, you're healthy, you're well, you're free. Let them live. They've made their choices and their mistakes. Keep that train pushing. I remember when I had the opportunity to sit down and ask my dad, because we didn't have a relationship. I can tell you, I saw him maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. I would say three that I clearly remember.
Mm.
And the last time that I saw him was I was looking at him in his casket. I remember flying out to the city where he was, and coming into the this funeral service because again I only saw him 3 times in my life. Lots, very few phone conversations over the years, and I wanted to pay my respects. And but my mother always kind of showed us. Um, she never talked bad about our fathers, which is something that we don't get a lot of these days with the
Yeah,
new raising of children. Um, but so I had to develop my own thought process with him. So the second time that I remember seeing him before, his death, I remember I sat down and took him out to eat, and I wanted to ask him and say, "Hey, man," I said, why weren't you there?" I wasn't angry or mad. I was just curious, and he gave me an answer that was good for me, and I'm okay with it. Um, he said he was young and he was running scared, and he had his excuses or whatever the case is, and I was like, I'm cool with that. But I never was angry. After that, I never was mad. He lived his life, and I'm living mine. You know what I'm saying? Um, and we just got to learn to forgive and just let it go. Like, when
yeah,
and this is for anybody, like, anybody who, if your mother wasn't there, if you're listening tonight and, your mother wasn't there, your grandparents weren't there, and you were an orphan, or you had to grow up in a tough situation, the best thing to do is try to find that space where you can forgive, get to know God in a very real way. I'm not here to preach on your show, but John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall never perish but have eternal life. And if we
Yep.
learn to give our lives over to the Lord, then we see things so differently. And the older that we get, the wiser we should become.
Come on now. Yeah. 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 And you know what? You said something that I didn't want the family members to miss as well here. You know, you have to heal yourself, man, so you can be yourself again. What I mean by that is, you know, if you're still uh, not healed from, you know, your childhood hurt, then how can you be 100% there for your kids? You know,
Yeah.
so you have to heal yourself so you can be yourself again. I always say that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think forgiveness is a very big part of who we are. Like, this is the other thing. Happiness is a choice. Let me start there. Um, Happiness is a choice. Money doesn't make me happy. People, places, things, material possessions, traveling outside the country, those things are nice, but those things don't make me happy. Happiness is a choice. And so, if we want to be happy and have peace, we got to start to make some choices and say, I choose peace. I choose love. You know what I mean? Um, and focus on those things. You know,
Yeah.
do some self affirmations. I am happy. I am blessed. I am wise. I am smart, and start speaking into your life because you know we live this particular life on this side of glory on this earth. As far as I understand, we live this life in the physical form in the flesh. We live it once. And I'm not going to be sitting here living this life being angry and mad and arms folded and lips poked out and jealous of other people. Like, man, I don't have that kind of bandwidth in my mental capacity to even do that. So
Yeah.
I choose to be happy. I choose to be forgiven. Um, but I choose to be wise too. You know what I mean? You do me wrong the first time, shame on you. You attempt to do me wrong and I'm still around, shame on me. But we ain't doing the shame game. So you
Yes,
do me
sir.
wrong, this is a big earth. We can separate and you stay on one side of the planet and I'm on the other, and there's no hate. I just look at people from a very, very different lens now. You know what I'm saying?
No,
But it's all
I definitely understand what you're saying. You know, just like that saying in the Bible where it says, "Watch and pray." I do a
oh,
lot of that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. People take it as one. I think when God's word is broken down to its very last compound, if we could even do that with our mental capacity, is God's word has several different meanings. You know what I mean? I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer of that.
yes,
So
sir.
you got to
Yes, sir.
watch and pray.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I'll say this: if somebody's mistreating you or abusing you or whatever the case is, you ain't got to pray about that. Get yourself up and out. You know what I'm saying? Some
Yes,
things you
sir.
ain't got to pray about. It's called common sense.
Go ahead and talk to the people, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, listen. You
Hey,
know,
I say this all the time, man. If the flag is red, the flag is red.
yeah. If it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, it's not a squirrel. I can tell you that.
Hey, you know what? I want to, I told you, man, I'm so grateful to have you on tonight, man, because, like I said, I've been doing my research, man. I've been doing my research on you, man, and the first thing I think about when I was doing the research on you, man, was an overcomer. Let's talk about this Radio Boy, and before we get into Radio Boy, let's talk about how you overcame your stuttering issue, and you didn't allow your disability to make your life disabled.
Yeah. Well, I always look at it like this, man. Sometimes you don't know that you have an issue until somebody else tells you. You know what I'm saying? So when I was in school, they had me like in resource rooms. It's like between regular educational classes and special ed classes. So they had me right in the middle. And it wasn't because I wasn't smart. It was, uh, I couldn't communicate like everybody else.
Yeah,
Um, so for me, going to these classes, um, it taught me something about myself, that I had to take my time when I talk. And the way that I was able to overcome this, speech impediment, little did I know, getting into rap music when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? Learning how to put words together to create sentences to tell stories. And, you know, even if you listen to me talk, I have a rhythmatic way of how I talk. And so we kind of eliminated the stuttering with the flow of how I speak. And so that's how I was able to, you know, to overcome it, realizing what it is. And also, it could be partial hereditary because my father is one who speaks fast. Um, well, he spoke fast, spoke a lot, and he mumbled, fumbled over his words. And I wasn't even raised with him. And of course, I picked up some of his traits, which is very uniquely weird to me, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
But I was able
yeah.
to overcome that just by, you know, going to speech therapy and getting into hip hop music and really understanding later on that that's what this was about. You know, God has a training ground for all of us. And as you get older, you start to put the pieces together. Like, you know what I mean? Um, you know, maybe my father wasn't supposed to invest in the music that I wanted to do. I get it. Now I understand it. You know what I mean? It was only for me to get excited about learning how to talk, learning how to create stories, learning how to rap, and learning how to have a rhythmatic vibe when I am talking. But it wasn't the end all, you know, be all when, you know, he didn't help. I'm still making records like we were talking about. I'm on the radio. I'm the inspirationalist and I'm reaching hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm cool with that. I'm like, okay, God, I get it, you know, and I'm all right with that. Now, talking about the book Radio Boy, um, I decided to write a children's book, and I remember sitting and talking about that with my wife, Dr. Darlette MJ Smith. She said to me, "What do you want to do next?" You know, because she's always pushing me to the limit of my creative capacity because I've already wrote another book, Elements of Inspiration, a 30-day, you know, devotional. So she was like, listen, what do you want to do next? And this was like a couple of years after we did the first book. And I said, I don't know, maybe I'll just write a book. And everything comes to me very uniquely different than most people. And I was like, I don't know, you know, maybe I'll write a book. She said, what do you want to call it? This is the challenge. And I said, I don't know, just Radio Boy. It just came out. She said, good. Go ahead and start working on that when you get into your office. And so I started working on it the next day, sent her the manuscript. And because she's an educator, highly educated, smart, and can dissect a lot of things like quickly. So I sent her the manuscript and she went over it, made a couple of changes, sent it back and said, well, now go and, you know, go get a book deal. You know what I mean? With her, everything is simplistic. And I had to learn that. Just do. Don't sit there and think about things too hard. Just do. So we were able to create, you know, Radio Boy. I didn't really promote it heavy. I just, you know, I did it because I wanted to do it because most of the stuff that I do, like making records and doing all these other things, I do it because I can. I do it because I want to inspire somebody else, you know. And so now we're getting ready to, you know, do some more with the book with some daycares and some schools. So yeah, but that's how the book Radio Boy came about, and it's really about a young man who had a speech impediment slash understood disability that it just shares my story. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that some kids will be inspired because a lot of kids are getting teased and you know how the usual stuff, the bullying and you know all that kind of foolishness. But I want kids to believe and know that they won't always be in that predicament that they're in, no matter what people say. You know, everybody has the opportunity to grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? I had a question for you because it's a two-part question here. As a man, how important is it to recognize that you do need help in an area? And I was hearing what you were saying about the second part of the question is, you know, how important to you or how valuable is it to you as a husband to be with someone that is like my shout out to my mentor, Elder Ruben Young. He said that um, partnership with purpose.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
important it is for you to have a partnership with a purpose, man. What I mean by that, I'll go deeper. That is, you know, pouring into everything that you're willing to do. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that is not tearing you down. You know, anything that you present to your queen, she's all for it. She's like, let's run through the wall with it. You know,
Hmm.
how important is that? But my first question is, as men, when you do recognize an issue with you, how important is that for you to recognize it, but don't look at it as a disability, but just recognize it so you can heal from that?
Yeah, well, I think that's the first thing in anything. And like, you got to recognize whatever it is. Sometimes people might have to point it out to you. And you got to be man enough and or woman enough or human enough to say,
Yeah,
I got to fix this thing. If I'm going to
yeah,
do better, if I'm going to grow, if I'm going to be anything more than what I am, then I got to fix the situation. Many a times I'm called to the carpet because, there's things that I have to fix. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that.
yeah,
But the moment that you feel like you're perfect, you don't have any issues, you don't want to
yeah,
listen. If you don't want to listen, you're not going to grow. If you're not going to grow, you're not going to be successful. If you're not going to be successful, that's definitely one to grow on. But we believe that we got to be successful in every area, so we constantly check one another. And it's not a negative check because some people they get it twisted. Um, the Bible says, "He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." So
yeah,
when in the maturity that we now have, because sometimes people are getting in relationships or situationships when they're younger, and they don't understand what relationships is really about until you get a little older and get a little wiser. And so, this go round, I'm a little wiser, a little smarter, a whole lot wiser, a whole lot smarter, and you find someone who understands your position with the Lord. I want to share this because I had this conversation as well. The Bible says, husbands love your wives. Wives submit to your husbands. Husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. You know how it goes.
yes, sir.
I'm
Yes, sir.
paraphrasing, but you get it. But
Yeah,
I come to this understanding that you can't love somebody unless you can submit to them. You can't submit to somebody unless you love them, which means that in a marriage or a relationship, we are equal, but everybody has a different function and role. When something goes down, God's not coming to the woman, he's coming to the man, the head of the household, not the boss. He's the head of the household because that's God's supernatural, spiritual, divine order. And so we have to remember there's got to be respect in the home, and you got to remember your position. And it doesn't mean that you're better than her or she's better than you. Even if she's making way more money, you know what I mean? That's a blessing. And a side note, a lot of brothers, a lot of men, they get angry and jealous and mad because a woman makes 5 times as much as they do. And I'm going to say this on your show. Yo, dudes, fellas, stop the foolishness. Stop it. Be glad that God blessed her like that. Maybe there's some areas in your life you got to step your game up, but until then, chill. You know what I'm saying? In most cases, most women have bigger degrees than the men that they're married to. In most cases,
but
so yeah.
yeah, we can be transparent, man. On the flip side, the women got to stop bashing the men too, though.
Oh yeah, and I think that comes in again, statistically speaking, because we hear it about it all the time. So don't nobody try to cancel Brother Marcus, because the sweetest thing in all America and all the world is you can't cancel me. So I'm gonna say what I gotta say. um, Sometimes people become so self-sufficient and independent of themselves, and this is for everybody. When you think that you have arrived, that you
Yeah,
can call the shots,
yeah,
and you can, but you could be by yourself, and that's okay. You can call the shots and be by yourself. But if you want to be in a relationship or a marriage, then you have to understand your position. And it's not saying that the man is greater than the woman. It's everybody has a role. And I think we need to be very clear. Everybody has a role to play. And so we do have some women that I've heard of it. A lot of times they'll talk down at a man or whatever the case is. And if that's how it's going down, then they need to figure out what they're doing, get some counseling and figure it out, because that's not how it should be. And the man, because he might be the breadwinner, he's not the boss, the chief, the king, the emperor of the house. That's not how this goes. You can't tell her, well, I make the money, I'm gonna call the shots, you get what I give you. Like, come on, we got to stop being corny and we got to grow up. All of us, you know what I'm saying? So, that's where therapy comes in. That's where counseling comes in. That's where good biblical spiritual teaching comes. And, again, I'm not on your show to point out anybody's issues. I just want to say, look, you
God,
know,
man, apologize, man. I love this. Listen. I requested for you to come on. I've been watching you. I know what comes with the territory. I
hmm
want people to come on my show and provide their greatness on my platform, man. So I'm actually over here taking notes.
Yeah, man.
No, seriously, man. Now we're finna get into the gritty of things, man.
Okay.
We're the same, industry, man, radio station host and whatnot, man. But as you know, I just achieved my 100th episode, man. But when I went on your page and I seen that you have achieved 300 episodes, man. And in the 100 episodes that I done been through, man, I done had some trials and tribulations, man. First of all, congratulations, man.
Thank you,
Congratulations
man.
on showing up, man, when you didn't want to show up, you know. Congratulations on just continue to serve, man, and inspire people, man. How has that been? How has that 300 episode journey been, man?
It's been interesting to say the least. We set the bar high over here, and because I do so many different things, um, everybody's selling. First of all, congratulations on your 100 episode. Um,
Appreciate
but
that.
even though we did the 300 episodes, the Element of Inspiration podcast, we've only been out for the podcast portion about a little over a year and year and a half. So we're not happy with the number, to be very honest with you, because I should be doing a podcast every day. So I should already have almost 400, 500 episodes. But we celebrate the milestones. I don't knock, when I got to like 50 and I got to 100 and 200. No, we celebrate, we never celebrate the losses. We celebrate the wins and the gains, but we still have marks that we want to meet. And I'm not at that mark yet, you know what I mean? So, but it feels good to be able to do that and then have, some articles, coming out where people are recognizing what we're doing. I had over 500,000 people recently engage with what I'm doing now, which is cool. You know what I mean? I'm grateful, but it's not about like a popularity contest, because if it is, I don't want to do this no more. I just want to be that inspirationalist that I don't have to brag about anything, but the Bible says they'll know you by your fruit. I shared that earlier. But I want people to see the work, but really see God in the work. So yeah, I'm glad we did the 300 episodes, and we're pushing. We probably got about 310 now. I don't know. We working.
Well, you know what, man? First of all, you're an example of being a serving in the community, man, and being popular without nonsense, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
You have hit 100. You have hit 300 without cussing.
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Disregarding or saying something crazy on your platform, having crazy guests on your platform. You have just been very, man, and showing up for the people. Someone asked me the question, what keeps me going every Saturday night? And I responded to them saying that because there's a me watching me, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
This platform, like I said, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror right now when I'm interviewing you, man, because you have that humble spirit, man, where you're showing up for someone else. I don't care about the viewers. I don't care about none of that. I'm grateful and thankful for everything that God has blessed me with the radio station and whatnot. And shout out to my queen. My queen is my manager. She's she was the one that solidified the deals with the radio station or whatnot. But I had no intention. I don't know if you know the whole deal about this podcast, but I was supposed to start this podcast over 9 years ago, but I told God no, because I wasn't ready physically, mentally. I wasn't there, and spiritually. And I didn't start a podcast that God wanted me to start, and I didn't want to do it and give him half of my effort. I want to give him my all. So I told him no. So then, over a year ago, God presented this deal to me again and said, I want you to start it. But he said, I can't use you until you empty. So I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, but I understand that I was doing a lot of worldly things at the time, and I just kept hearing a voice saying, "I can't use you until you're empty." And then this last voice said, "If you don't take it now, I'll give it to someone else."
Mm-hmm.
I committed myself to sell out, man, and be sold out for God and whatever God has in store for this podcast, this platform. And I'm pretty sure, just like yourself, now that God has blessed me with this platform, I am sensitive and guarded with the people that I bring on, because I
Mm-hmm.
want things to be decently and in order to God. But talk about has there ever been a time in this 300 journey where you thought about giving up?
Nah, that's nah for me, man. That doesn't even exist in my world. Um,
Good.
we, like I said, I have so many things that roll out of what I do. And the thing is, man, I do this because I'm a talker, I'm a communicator. So anything that's dealing with like communications, I love it. You know what I'm saying? I work with other stations as well, but like I said, I curated my own. And but I did this because this is something that I absolutely enjoy. And I don't let people, places, or situations make me feel like, I don't belong. You know what I mean? I just continue to do what I do. I love what I do. I don't think about quitting or giving up. Um, I'm trying to duplicate myself, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
and get other people on board. So some people that ask me some questions about podcasting or radio, and I give them the game. Like there's no gatekeeping mentality here. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to share. I'm willing to say, hey man, these are the contacts, these are the people that I know. This is how you do it. Um, because there's got to be somebody out here that does it better than us. And if they're better than us, let them get on and reach more people. Like, at the end of the day, man, the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, however the phrase goes, it's about soul winning.
Come on now. Yeah.
It's really about soul winning. And when it comes to guests on my show, I pretty much interview anybody. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll take anybody, because everybody has a story. I'll give you a quick example. There was a gentleman that came on who will forever remain anonymous. Somebody had told him about me or whatever. He came in, and there was a situation where he was set up for like abusing a child or something like that. That's what the claim was. And I listened to a story, and I questioned him straight out. I said, bro, you're in my studio. If I even thought, you know what I'm saying? Because there's the humanistic side of us. I said, if I even thought that, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? Because when you live a long time, you can read people, you can see the authenticity of their character, and you can see their flaws. And but he was being very genuine. But I was like, yo, if I even thought X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna drag you out of here. You know what I'm saying? But I gave him an opportunity to talk and share his story and things of that nature. But it wasn't what people were expecting or what they thinking. It was it was a bitter situation, in the relationship, and the other parent used leverage by using shock words or shock therapy or these alert words to say that the person has done this and like hit the child, not anything sexual. But and it wasn't true, you know what I mean? And I made sure I got all that information to make sure that it wasn't true. But I'll interview anybody, like for celebrities like DMC from Run DMC, secular artists, gospel artists, to like Dietrich Haddon. I've been around a lot of these folks, from Kirk Franklin to Mary Mary. Mary, I've been around a lot of people. So
Yeah.
anybody's welcome to come to the show. Um, yeah, so I just kind of, because it's a lesson in it all, you know. It's a lesson that everybody, a story that everybody has.
Well, my brother, if you have me, man, I would love to be a part of your amazing platform, man, as a guest one day.
Absolutely. Say less, man. Say
I,
less. It's done deal.
I have a question for you here, man. As I actually put this on my playlist, man. Talk about your headspace when you were making this song, "Never Leave."
You want to talk about headspace? Here we go. Um, I kind of created the track, and then I never wrote the song. I just did it in one take, and then went back and did background vocals, and that was it. Because Michael Jackson once said years ago, if I don't, if I don't mean it, I don't sing it if I don't mean it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, records that I make, most of the records, I would say 50% of the records, I don't even write them. I just do one takes and that's it. And that comes from being like a rapper, being able to put words together and tell a story or whatever. So if I create a song or curate a song, I'll put the headphones in and I just do a one take and that's it. And that whatever comes out, that's going to be the record. And there's that. You know what I'm saying? So, there are some records that I do right, but for the most part, that one you're talking about, that was a one take record.
Man, let me tell you, man, I already got that on my playlist. I've been listening to a lot of your other ones as well, man. I love how I can feel, the journey in your singing, man.
Well, thanks, man.
I think that's very important when you are a songwriter and a singer. Is that I need to be able to hear your story
Hmm.
in the in the song. Um,
Yeah.
you were saying something about character, man, and I say this all the time on my show, man. I want to see how you feel about this. I said that your character is more, and it should be more than your reputation. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely, because reputation can be a facade. You know what I mean? Everybody's looking at you like you're popular, you're celebrified or a celebrity, but they don't know the true you. Character is who you are when no one's looking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
there's
yeah,
people.
but maybe it hit the sound better coming from the guests.
No, but seriously, like, who you are is, when you're by yourself, that's the real you. You know what I mean? The struggles that you might have, or, that's when you are by yourself, that's who you are.
Yeah,
Um, that's your true character. And so everybody's got something that they got to work on. You know what I mean? A lot of us are walking in this life. It's a big masquerade party. I got this, I got that, I got money, I got this. You know what I mean? That it's corny. Like the older you get, you realize things are a little bit, character is really who you are when you're by yourself.
hey, you know what? This last question, man, I was kind of hesitant on asking that because I had got kind of choked up a little bit myself.
How many
Um,
millions? You trying to ask me how many millions of dollars I have? I have no problem telling you. Is that what you asking me?
no, because of where
Oh,
God has brought me from with this podcast and how He's blessed you with, your journey as well, man. I asked this question to myself many times, man. Um, how would my mom feel about where I am today?
oh, wow, wow. Well, I'm gonna answer it for me and you, because of some of the things that you've already said. You're doing things a certain type of way. You turned everything over to God. You really want to serve God. You have your queen on your side helping you to get things on track. I think your mother would be very proud of you. I'm answering that one for you. And for me, um, I know my mother would be very proud. Because she always tapped into the spiritual side of who I was. I remember when she was transitioning, and she used to always say, "Mark, pray." She used to call me Mark, and she would always put her hand out and extend her hand to me, and always tell me to pray, because there was something special about how I prayed, and it wasn't like using big words or trying to be all fancy, but it was the sincerity of it all.
Yeah.
And so she knows that me praying all the time, watching over every decision and business thing that we do, I know that she would be, happy and proud for certain.
For sure. Man, well, man, we just gonna keep on being great, man, for our mothers, man, for our queens, man. Man, if first of all, I want to thank you for putting your Saturday night to the side. I know it's pretty late out there, man, but I knew that this is going to be a very amazing show. I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it, man. I am a fan of you. Uh, I feel
Oh.
like I feel like I'm pretty much watching myself, man. I'll be honest with
Yeah,
you.
no problem, man. I appreciate, the compliment, man. I pray I'm gonna keep praying for you. And, like I said, you inbox me, let's make sure we get the proper information and digits, numbers and stuff going. And you're always welcome to call me, man. Like, If you need anything, information, resources, whatever, it's nothing but a phone call, man. And you know, I believe that we get information, we need to share it, and
Absolutely.
especially if it's going to help somebody else, because I don't know everything. I only know what I know. You know what I'm saying? And if I
No,
want to expand, I gotta, we gotta push out so that we can make room for other things. You know?
absolutely. And you know what? The great thing that I like about you, man, is that, what you're saying, on social media right now is not a front. It's, we've talked off air, man. And the first thing, you said to me, man, whatever I need help with, man, just let you know. Just let you know.
Absolutely.
That was just amazing to me. Like I said, this was just supposed to be a hobby, man. And it became bigger than me, but
Hmm.
God be the glory on that. And He has surrounded me as I've continued this journey with some amazing people in my life, man. And I'm grateful and thankful that you are a part of that village as well, sir. If you have any, I did see on your page that you have some upcoming events and whatnot, and I see that you do an amazing job in the community as well. If you have the floor now on anything that you want to promote, but I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, man, from the bottom of my heart. I will be watching you because I'm still a student to the game. So,
Hmm.
and I'm humbly accepting that I am a student to the game, man, and I am definitely willing to be up under someone like yourself, man, that is doing the same thing, inspiring, uplifting, encouraging, letting people know that they are valuable and relevant in this world. So I want to say thank you, man, for being a light that God has put on you, that He's allowing it to shine amongst you so people can gravitate to you like myself. So I want to say thank you again, man. But again, you have the floor now. If anything you want to promote, any last encouraging words you want to leave, you have the floor now, sir.
Absolutely. I definitely want to promote your podcast. That everybody needs to tune in and check you out every Saturday night. I believe you do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Every Saturday night. They need to tap into what you're doing, more so than what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Because you know, you are definitely what I call the element of inspiration, quicker picker upper. You're making things happen. So the other shout out that I want to give, or if there's any closing words, is let's all just get to know Jesus. I'm gonna quote two scriptures, John 3:16 and John 3:17. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:17. For God sent his Son into the world, not to condemn the world, but the world through him might be saved. So I want people to understand that we live this life on this side of glory once in the physical form. So let's live it up. Let's not be mad and bitter. Let's let things go. And happiness is a choice. And don't give up on yourself, and just live your life. Learn to forgive yourself, and that's all I really want to promote. If that makes sense to anybody, promote your show. Your podcast that comes on 7 o'clock every Sunday. That's well, I'm East Coast, so you're what, West
Pacific.
Coast, Pacific. Okay, so people need to check you out and get to know Jesus in a very real way, and don't give up on yourself. Believe in what you do, and that's it, man. That's it.
Man, again, man, I feel like you're a brother from another mother, man. I appreciate you, man. Like I said, more than you know, man. We will be keeping in touch. I got some things brewing, man, and great minds think alike, man. And I can't wait for what God is going to do with this connection, man. But again, I want to thank you for putting your Saturday night to the side, sir, and you be blessed now.
All right, you too. God bless you. God bless your audience, man. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Have a good night.
Sir. Man, I needed that, man. I needed that. This brother then did 300 episodes and counting. I'm not looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the faithfulness, the dedication, the serving. I keep telling you, in the midst of it all, keep serving. And like my guest last week, Sister Dottie Wright said, while you're serving, Count it all joy. Count it all joy. Man, shout out to my guest tonight, Mr. Marcus C. Smith, better known as Philly Favor, better known as Brother Marcus. Good brother, man. Good brother in Christ. Just a good brother, genuinely, man. Promote yourself. Promote yourself. If I can leave you with something that he said tonight, promote yourself. Again, shout out to my guest tonight, Mr. Marcus C. Smith, aka Philly's Favor, aka Brother Marcus, for blessing me and the family members tonight. Until next time, family. God bless.